Wonderful. Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Irvine International Academy regularly scheduled board meeting for June 25th, 2024, and it's 6 p.m. And we're going to welcome everybody both online and present here at the school campus. We're going to begin with a roll call vote. I'm sorry, roll call vote, just a roll call to call our meeting order. And I'll begin with the left side with Felipe Delgado.
Present.
Wonderful. And Molly Chang.
Present.
Doug Hewson is present. Brett Freeman. Present. And David Sun.
Present.
And traveling and not able to attend tonight is Miller Zhuang. We wish him the best. That brings us to our Pledge of Allegiance. I'm feeling a bit patriotic today, and so I'll lead those wishing and able to stand our flags behind us. If you'd like to join me, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. We're going to begin first with a review of the agenda, and if there are no changes to it, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda as presented. I had a hand in creating it, so I know I'm going to approve it. Motion to approve. Okay, Brett does. I'll second. And then starting at my left, Felipe.
Yes.
Molly.
Yes.
Doug is a yes. And Brett.
Yes.
And David.
Yes.
Okay, our agenda is approved. I'll forecast for those online that we'll go offline for a moment. I'm thinking 15, no more than 20 minutes for our closed session, single item personnel matters, and we'll report out any action taken when we reconvene. But I'll invite Brett, who is our technical director today, to stop our recording, and we'll see everybody back about 15, 20 minutes at the most. All right, welcome everybody back to the regularly scheduled meeting for Irvine International on June 25th. And 2024, we're coming out of a closed session and reconvening an open session. I'll report out that the board took unanimous action on a personnel matter. Moving us then to item 4, invite any public comments for the board. And I didn't see any Brett online present. Any public comments? Okay, I will acknowledge at least one additional guest. Dr. Amy Kernan has joined us, who was executive director for OPA for a number of years, and you'll hear more about her. Well, very quickly too, so we'll keep moving on then past public comments. To our consent agenda, which is simply one item, and that's to approve the meetings from last Saturday, the special board meeting, June 22nd. Can I invite a motion to approve the minutes as they're listed on the website?
I motion.
Thank you, Felipe. And I think David got in before you, Molly. That was good. So we'll let David. Yeah, we're recording. So we'll go right to left. David?
Yep.
Minutes, and Brett? Aye. And Doug is a yes. And Molly?
Yes.
And Felipe?
Yes.
We have our minutes approved. Wonderful. We've got discussion and action items, a number of those. And if somebody pops up on the screen for a comment on these individual ones, we'll slice you in. And I'll try to remember to invite that. First up is the board will consider, discuss, and approve the compensation of the new executive director for the 2024-25 school year. You see any public comments on that, Brett?
No, we're the only participant.
Okay, this is the one employee whose compensation is discussed publicly in open session. All others are generally between the executive director, the individual, and then ratified by the board in closed session. So to open up the conversation, a quick history readback. Brett, we went on a search. Could you just recap our search for an executive director and what sad news, I mean, great news precipitated that?
Well, our current executive director had decided to apply for the Orange County Superintendent of Schools position. And in parallel, during that process, we opened up the position to see what applications we might entertain for that role as executive director, each candidate being made aware that it was a possibility that position would need to be filled based on the decision by the Orange County Board of Education. We had 27 applicants. We had 2 rounds of interviews. We had 3 board members in each of those 2 rounds. And we asked a series of questions of each of the candidates. They were all done on Zoom. And we were able to ascertain through that process. At the very end, by the round 2, we had 2 applicants that we did go through final interviews with. And we are joined today by Dr. Amy Kernan.
And I would add that the board unanimously desired and chartered me to begin negotiations with Dr. Amy Kernan. And we have an outline of an agreement, but the missing component is compensation. And so the board is required to fill that in to make the final offer to her and hopefully then anticipating acceptance. So we'll begin that discussion probably with a little bit of Kismet left, right? Our HR director. Okay. I'll share some things that she shared with me. Compensation for the executive director is set from a number of perspectives. One of those perspectives is, let's take a pause. Do we need
Yeah, we need to, our authorizer is trying to access.
a question? Let's see if we can get the
Yeah.
audio up.
We're gonna get, no, she's not logged in properly, so.
And if we need to do a voice call, we can do that too.
So it's been recorded.
Just make sure that
She'll watch the recordings.
if she joins, if she
Oh,
needs.
because we record,
We're
we don't
recording.
post live.
Yeah, it's all right. It's recording.
Okay, so we'll. Okay, and if she has a question to relay, would you just interrupt me?
Yep.
Yeah, because sometimes their guidance is important.
Just want to make sure she's. So I'll stand here while you're,
What's that?
I'll stand here while you're talking. See if she can log in.
Oh, okay, she's,
We don't know, notice, you can see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to let her.
If she logs on, we can see it.
Yeah, I don't know if I need to let her in.
yeah, we'll continue on. So our HR director who helped us prepare to find an executive director put a prospective salary scale into the advertisement in the adjoint. How does she find that salary scale? Well, doing salary studies and calling other like or similarly situated charters, looking at our current executive director salary, inquiring with other schools that are nearby, talking with our legal counsel. So there's a number of inputs that come up with the scale. The scale that we published was 185 to 215,000 in compensation. Of course, the charter schools, like other public schools, offer a stipend based on education. PhDs receive oftentimes an additional stipend. So that was our scale that we published. Now we get to talk about, and it's a little bit fun, what is the right amount in this situation at this time to extend as an offer as we're seeking to complete our contract offer to the executive director that we want. I'll entertain thoughts on it and questions too that we can share with each other. And hopefully it'll answer any questions if you have some questions about what we currently do or we've done in the past as well.
Question.
Yes.
Did we get the comp study comparison from?
We did not get a new comp study from our legal counsel. Don't have a comp study. The last comp study I saw personally was probably 18 months ago. Yeah, which was following Dr. Bean's appointment and compensation. Yeah.
One question. But this also taking into account Amy's current compensation level, right? We take that into consideration as well.
Yeah, so she comes from a situation where she was earning more than our advertised salary range. It's public knowledge, but 245 as a base plus stipend. So yeah, she had some greater responsibilities that she will maybe soon have here. But yeah, if you're wondering what it was, 245 base plus stipend. Correct me if there's any. Yeah, that's close enough to where we're at. Yes. So great question.
Dr. Bean, right now you're at 215, is that right?
Correct. Yeah, Dr. Bean at 215.
With principal and executive director.
In the contracts that we're offering are very similar, although Dr. Bean's had a paragraph because in our negotiations, we had come to the conclusion that it would be better for us not to have our principal the first year because of his experience and his ability to train a assistant principal. So he took 2 roles along the way. Yeah, so that was taken into account as well. Kismet, to do the range, did the initial research,
Yeah.
but did not invite a third-party study. Yeah, if I would imagine if we did third-party studies, we would find what we found 4 years ago, and again 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and that's this, that the executive director title can look different in different organizations. Multi-site organizations have an executive director. We're a single site school with an executive director who've agreed to take principal role. We're looking for an executive director to begin to build the vision out for multi-site. So we're just at the cusp of that, and we'll need that person. But we may not be the size that pays for that person that's now over multi-sites. So we're right in that flux. You know, we may have to entice that person in with the salary, but we probably, with our budget, have to be conscious of what we can afford. Part of Kismet's analysis also was working with Delano Jones and North Compass on what our budget is that we approved and what we could afford at this moment. We could afford, we know next year, our cash position at the end of the year will be much, much improved, almost by $500,000.
Yeah.
And so, but at this one, here we are. So Maureen, thank you for joining us. When your audio becomes available, we'd like to invite you to comment if you'd like. Otherwise, we can continue on with the conversation.
She's just observing.
She's just good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Well, we're glad to have her joining us. Okay, so we're going to repeat back. My name's Doug Hewson. Welcome to the, no, we're not going that far back. Let's hear from just down the line, just thoughts on compensation. I believe we're each of us, except for Molly, I think was part of setting Dr. Bean's compensation, weren't they? Were you there? Yeah, but you were there for that as well? Yeah, good. So we have some basis for it. Felipe, thoughts on compensation for new incoming executive director?
Sure. I gotta tell you that, this is the way I see it. I think we should offer the 185, and I'll tell you why. There's two big reasons. Number one, don't take this the wrong way, Amy, but she's improving to me until we see something happen, right? Whenever I'm in that position, I start at the bottom. The other reason, we're poor school. You know, we're not massive. You know, we're just coming out of the hole, right? Yeah, I think we're anticipating next year to be 500,000, hopefully, right? But that's still a long way away, you know? So I don't think we should be dependent on that as a reason to stray from a base rate, what I'm gonna call the base rate. And probably the third and most important reason, I know that, let me see if I can put this correctly. I couldn't go home to my wife and tell her that I offered her more than the base rate to start with. I mean, that's the way, you know, we handle, I think you said it, you know, we treat this like our money, right? Right? We treat it like our money, right? And that's the way me and my wife deal with things. And so, yeah, she would chastise me. You know, this is the way we think. And I got to express that. So I would say, yeah, we start with the 185, see how she does this year, and move up the line. That's my opinion.
Appreciate that. That's what we had echoed, is that our duty on the board is to treat decision-making in relation to money the same way we would treat our own or business that's like that we were running. And so it's good. Molly, some of your thoughts too. I've got one in my mind I'm going to take a note on. I want to share with everybody. What occurs to you?
This is very new. I have, especially with you sitting here.
It's by design awkward, isn't it? Unfortunately, you only have to do this once every 5 or 6 years or 8 years.
Well, I have to tell you that the first time I had to do this was Dr. Beam was sitting there. And boy, that was rough. I think that was pretty rough.
So part of me, I want to make sure, taking what Dr. Kern's current salary in account. But at the same time, that was never for the search committee to think about that. Otherwise, we will not look for someone with experience. We'll look at someone with less. So that wasn't in the consideration. But at the same time, I think the school, we have to consider what we can offer. So I think whatever we can offer at this moment, and maybe in the language, we'll say there's going to be, I don't know, there's an increase, or later on, I don't know, it's next year or something. Just put it over there, knowing if what we can offer right now is much less than what she's getting. So I don't know whether that will work. So, but I don't know how much we can pay right now.
Yeah, certainly in an agreement, we can forecast that. Already within our policy is to evaluate the performance of the executive director annually. And with that, we can adjust compensation. But if we want to put specific language into the agreement, we could do that just to forecast it. Yeah, but it is a built-in process too. So that's great. What I'm taking note of, I'll just share with everybody, is that in a year ago, for our teachers in particular, and it rippled through even to the other staff, we were able to do a cost of living increase. And it, in the budget recommended by our executive director, it recommended a 5% increase. And the board advocated for a 6% increase for the employees, taking a bit of a risk. And then he reshaped the budget to cover it, which was really creative and, glad that he did. This year, the employees are not getting a cost of living increase. They're held with the idea that we'll revisit it in a year. Go ahead.
I want to add to that, what you said. Additionally, if I recall, he forego his increase. Dr. Beam forego his increase as part of that whole situation there. So,
Yeah.
it's very amiable.
Yeah, that was-
honorable to do that.
I
Because
think
we
it made I don't know if that was well known, but it was in a
That's
public
what-
meeting, but it
That's
was
how we,
certainly was nice.
that was the package.
Yeah.
That's how that packaging.
So there's a lot of factors. The other factor I'll add is this, that what we decide should be honoring to the and reflective of the capabilities of the person we're bringing in. And this particular executive director is not proven here, but very proven in the previous role. I mean, she's it. I mean, developed, rescued school, developed processes, put the multi-campuses through over an 8-year period. It's got all the skills. So we weigh out, we haven't been with her, but I can look at the work history and go, oh, wow. Unafraid of fundraising, able to raise all of the pieces. So we're gonna feel tension in here. And I want to make sure that as we keep discussing, I want to recognize that and come to a place that honors what we're truly getting. Brett, and then David, a little reflection, either with thoughts or comments.
I probably would come in closer to 200 inclusive of the stipend, the doctorate stipend. If there's an opportunity for us to recognize the skill sets of Dr. Canal and her accomplishments, knowing that she hasn't necessarily done it here, but she has done it other places. Dr. Bean was doing 2 roles, say, was working a lot of hours with a lot of different hats. And I think we considered that when we bumped him up. I think initially was at, what was it, 185 or something like that, with a car allowance, something like that. So I'm probably closer to the 200, whereas we have an opportunity to maybe save the school some. So there's some expression of faith there that we're saving the school some monies, but we also want to recognize that we have a very qualified and talented person who will be taking this role.
Yeah, feeling those same tensions. David,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your reflection too.
Dr. Kanan, right? Yeah, she's qualified. I mean, she came in, anywhere, for the salary range, we advertised that she's gonna take a salary cut, basically, minimum of 10% drop. But I know it's a challenge because we, at some point in our career, we also, I got that kind of a situation when I moved back to another job overseas. All right, it took a significant salary cut, but it was a greater platform for me down the road. So you're probably going to face the same. But there are several reference points. One is your previous compensation level now, and the compensation level here, and also have in reference to the second guy below you. So there are several points also have to compare to Dr. Bean. Dr. Bean's compensation currently is 215. If Dr. Bean stayed I would say he will have a significant increase, like, right, I'm not, just saying, because, in recognition of his remarkable achievement, that's my word, remarkable achievement. And, for a lot of times, he had to wear two hats. It's just like running a startup, you really kind of see the organization mushroom very, very quickly. That's remarkable, because I was in that kind of a situation in the past. So that's gonna be a reference point. Dr. Bean had stayed, if he decided to stay, he would have a much higher than 215. Okay, so I think that's a good reference point. My opinion is, we are growing quickly. We anticipate that we're gonna have a cash flow positive. I think, for Amy, I would have proposed to give something north of 200. So just psychologically, and, just make it more attractive. Okay, may not be necessarily be at the current level yet, but north at 200 would be, it's a good gesture as well. That's my personal opinion.
Reflection on those, as in my mind, I make up how I continue to lead this conversation. No, I kind of have not. There's no script for this one.
It's always awkward.
I will, I like your language. I'll amplify that. I think, we knew when we got Dr. Bean, that we got
got a deal.
a deal. Yeah. we knew that.
Good deal.
In the business of getting deals, that's what, most of this is public, it's stratified, it's known. But we really realized, that, again, I'm like David, there is something, not just psychological, but closer to the mark. We won't be able to start where, our executive director is truly worth. We can't pay the full value yet. But the nice thing is, we're kind of people that commit to getting there, like you said. But in my mind, the range for where she's at with a little buffer for, call it unknown, call it growth, call it improvement, is more in the 205, 210 salary. And then, of course, her doctorate degree would earn her a small amount on top of that, which is approximately $2,500, I think, is where it is. I'm in that range as opposed to the 185. And this is the interesting thing. All of us will have some experience with salaries, either our own, our family members, or setting other people's salaries. If you have that, we're in that role now. And all we have is our own frame of reference and the information we can add. And so we may not get it right, meaning truly justified, right, and perfect. And that's not what we're held to. What we're held to is to really consider it and make independent judgments about it, and then come to consensus through those independent judgments. The way we get there is a bit clunky. We actually offer motions at a salary and we take a vote. And if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't pass, we go for another motion. And that's kind of I don't want to do $1 more more, another that's not productive. But that's where we head in this. But it is worth just take a minute, share any other thoughts that bubble up, even if they seem a little unrelated. Because I'm open to hearing them.
Yeah, Doug, this is not science, really. I'm a scientist, but it is not science, truly. And, that's not a finesse about this. Just because we can't go wrong too far, right?
Yes.
And not a company. The schools are moving in the right directions and moving smoothly. And so we look very optimistic about the future, right? So why don't we just, propose something along this line? And that's what I would propose.
Okay.
And be done with it.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I'll start with motions. How's that?
Yeah.
Make a motion at 2:05. How's that? That's above your breaker, that's above your physical line and,
Is that all in?
Or
or
your-
that's-
what's that?
Is it all in, or that's before you consider the stipend? Just want to make sure that we're,
2:05, well, that's the base rate, right? That's the
it's
base.
the base.
Yeah, we're only talking about the base,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Everything
That's why I
above
want to
that.
clarify.
Yeah.
Discuss.
I'll make a motion right here, 2:05.
I'll light a second on that. And by a second, you're not saying you're gonna absolutely vote for it. You're saying, I want to bring a vote to it. If we don't bring a second, just the procedural things, we just entertain a new motion.
Right.
Could be higher, could be lower, it's okay.
One more question. Have you guys discussed this in any way over the phone, when you get a conversation with them?
So I've been, yes, so I've been chartered to begin negotiations with Dr. Kernan.
Yeah.
And in that discussion, I can share with you that she said, hey, as a matter of public record, my existing salary is $245 plus a stipend. I understand that's not what was placed in the job description. In my interactions with her, I perceived it might be tough to get her if we don't come up to the top, or sometimes even more than was in there. Now, we've been budgeted to the 215. It doesn't, we can adjust the budget. We have the ability to do that. We can charter her to go back and change the budget to afford it. So yes, so I've had that discussion. So on the, and we can continue to discuss, but on the tables of motion at 2:05, could I invite a second for that? Brett will second that. And so with that, it would be 2:05 plus the stipend. The stipend is determined externally. It's for all with PhDs in this area. So I believe it's at or about $2,500. It could be, we could find out it's $2,675. It's what she would currently be getting for her stipend or what Dr. P. With that in mind, let's do a roll call vote. We'll start at the left with Felipe.
Doug, just a point
Yep.
of procedure. How can you second a motion, open up a discussion, and then
Oh, okay. Yeah. So discussion on the 2:05.
Had the pre-discussion. but-
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of a pre-discussion.
I'm out of
Then-
sync.
not have
I'm
that.
definitely out of sequence. Usually it's
Definitely out of
motion
sequence
discussion,
there.
but I like discussion before a motion too.
I would repeat, but if you want to do discussion, I would repeat what I said. I think that the 2:05 breaks the 200 barrier that you were talking about, Dave.
Yeah.
It still keeps it closer to what I want. And I think that from what I hear, that we can afford that. We can afford it. And that gives us, I put it on the table and ask Amy to show me the money next year. That's what I think. She wants more. You gotta show me. the money. Show me it. And then I'll do it. That's my discussion.
Thank you. Other discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, so when we post the job, what was the range?
Yeah, 185
To,
to 215. Yeah, I'll write that down just in case. Yeah. That was the discussion, the question.
That was it?
That's okay.
well, well, I was just thinking back because because we talk about, we also need to consider the candidates experience and so on, so I thought she's so high, maybe we should give this. But that's a motion part, so I don't know whether there's a time to.
We get to, no, that's where we get to put this discussion out, then we'll take a vote, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, we're gonna go for another round two. I feel the tension that any person would. I would say it this way, to those that will watch this later and inquire about the decision-making process. I would say the decisions I try to come to here are the same decisions I think anybody else would come to if they knew everything I knew. they can't know everything I know. I don't have time to tell them everything I know. And in that, my sense is we're close, but it needs to be a little higher. So that's my comment. We'll keep going down the line if there's any more comments.
Want to say something?
I mean, there's the tension, right? But
There's the tension.
when we talk about, 5 or 10 grand at the 200 level, then to me, it's, after tax in the state of California, okay, we're not talking about a whole lot of money here, let's just be honest, right? So I mean, it's meaningful money, but it's the public's money. Okay, so,
It's the school's money.
yeah, but I mean, in this way, that's where we try to come to a place. Is the first time we have a principal, which we're honored to have. And I'm in first year, we had a principal and we had an ED, but we had chaos, right? So now we're talking about something totally different. So it's really the promise of what could be in having an ED and what we see in Dr. Green, right? And the opportunities that could be. And so my suspicion is next year it's a lot easier, right? Because then it's like, oh yeah, just, that's terrific. So I'm fine. I know I second the motion for the 205. I'm fine. I think we're in the zone for me. I just don't want to get to a point where we're doing something where we're extending ourselves to the point where it's uncomfortable and it becomes difficult for me to defend it. Anybody who asks me, why did you go for that? So I want to make sure that I feel good about that, and that's why I'm trying to be measured in my approach.
Want to say something?
Sure.
Yeah, I think we're close, okay. Yeah, if you really ask what's on my mind.
We always do, Dave.
Yeah, good. Well, just, bump up it slightly, okay. I mean, this is not for superstition or something, all right, you have a lucky number. Maybe a lucky number, but there was, just, as I said earlier, we have a reference point for Dr. Bean's current compensation with that. Yeah, we don't want to go over that. Yeah, I really, that's a threshold. Below that, and now we're 205. I think we just, why don't we just bump a little bit, 207, 208 range. And we're slightly below that because, as I said, if Dr. Bean stays on, we're going to have a different. I will personally ask for a significant raise for this gentleman. And so that point is a moot issue. So why don't we just increase that to let's say 207, and I feel comfortable.
Good
Yeah.
discussion. We'll take a vote then on the 205 first, and this probably goes in the minutes. I'll keep track of it too. Having been motion by Felipe, second by Brett, vote at 205.
Yes.
Say yay. Molly?
Higher, so what do I say?
You would say no.
No.
I'm a no right now. We got that, Brett?
I'm a yes.
Brett's a yes. And David?
No.
Okay. And again, there's no value judgment one way or the other because we're all in the same boat. So that brings us to a new discussion that David made and certainly can turn into a motion. I will add this little piece of discussion. And
Could you send it to motion first and then discuss it?
okay, we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Do you prefer that?
What do I make a motion to 207? I'm not, just a kind of a sticker to, really.
Mhm.
I think it's just, if I were in the situation, I would truly, I think just make it closer to what we advertised to the upper range, and I still consider several reference point. I think a 207 would make He might be making more sense.
Mhm.
I would make a motion. 205.
Second on David's motion for 207.
Say 207 or
207. 207.
It sounded like
End of
five
the
all the way
205.
up.
Oh, I said 207.
It sounded like five all the way over here.
207. You.
I'll second it.
Yeah, Brett's got second.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, perfect. Discussion. Only discussion I have, it's an observation, and I think it's kind of positive. This is 22 higher than the entry on the posting. 8 less than the max that would be normally for executive director in a multi-campus situation. That's where Kismet put it. So that's kind of informative. I hope that says, in getting close to this number, it says, we don't think you're 185. We don't think you're just a rookie coming in with this. We think you're going to take us to the multi-campus. We're just not there yet. So that's kind of important. It's 22 ahead of the 185. It's 8 below the 215. Other discussion. I'll have one more.
Okay.
Sorry.
After this, I'll tell you why 7.
Yeah. I'll add this that.
lucky number?
There was a previous executive director that was at 208 with less experience. That was probably overpaid, I will just confess. But we had a salary study to support it, no doubt. I mean, the salary studies are gonna come in higher, they are. Because other schools are more mature, they have money in the bank. But we did, in the past, probably made a judgment a little higher on the scale than we should have been for the experience level. We just didn't know. That wasn't you, by the way. I'm using Queen's we. It was only me left. It was only me and other board members. So I just put that out just where I'm looking, I'm going, I hope this is super honoring and reflective of what's in our belief, which is, this is a person worth what we'll pay next year already, is what I'm thinking in my mind. So we have a first, we have a second. Any more discussion?
So the 208 was, the research was done how many years ago?
That would, and that was a number of years ago. Yeah, that was, that decision was made almost 4 years ago. Yeah, that, I'd forgotten that was at the time. So even more so, probably at that moment was more than was that the person had qualifications for. Here, we've got a person with qualifications beyond what we're doing at the moment. So that's a good point.
There was a decent amount of thrashing in the first year.
Yeah.
Criticizing how much that ED was.
Yeah, and I think in retrospect, that probably was accurate. You know, here, we're not gonna have criticism per se, at all.
At that time, then, there were a lot of uncertainties and, turmoils. Yeah. It's really.
Well, and what I'm hearing from the board too is that what we can do within our judgment with the full anticipation that this is an annual process too. We have the motions. We can then call for a vote. Any further discussion before I call for a vote at 207 base plus stipend for the doctorate degree as well. This time we'll start on David's end because he brought the motion. David?
Yeah.
Brett? Yep. I'm going to say no, but it shouldn't be interpreted any different than I'm feeling the tension and the desire that I don't want to in any way not acquire this leader. Molly,
This is it, baby. This is the big time.
Come on, Marty, is this not a sign?
So,
Don't make it so hard. on
So-
yourself.
do I need to consider this group or we don't?
no, just your own independent, you don't even have to consider the outcome, whether it is, it's majority will rule, you can take that into account, but it's just your feelings on it. Is that no? Okay. And Felipe,
I vote yes.
with that, the board has approved me to continue negotiations and to offer to our prospective executive director, along with the terms and conditions of a agreement that I've shared, absent the amount of compensation that we would offer $207,000 annual compensation plus the stipend for a doctoral degree.
I knew I should have stayed in school.
What's that?
I knew I should have stayed in school.
Yeah,
Oh,
motion
got a
passes.
doctorate.
Not too late.
So, just a moment, for maybe some coaching from, Dr. Bean. Two, we can extend and approve that offer just as we do with a vote. I mean, we, previously already discussed the terms in the contract and who we wanted, now the amount we want to offer. The job isn't done till the paperwork is finished. You know, I can extend that offer in writing following a vote from this board. Our prospective executive director has to agree to that and sign on the line. I think at this point, Dr. Bean, we, on our agenda is to consider and approve the appointment of a new executive director. Well, we can name that executive director we desire with the caveat that she would have to review the contract and agree to it. Does that sound like what we forecast here to you, Dr. Bean?
Yes, but so the last meeting they had you negotiate, right? And so did this hit or range for negotiation? The amount? So if it did, then I wouldn't see why you couldn't just appoint her. And yes, I guess she could,
Yeah, we could appoint her with the
with that amount,
proviso that she accepts and signs the contract and that she passes the background check,
yes.
which she's passed continually, probably all of her career.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's really it. I'm gonna get it right on this time, though. What's the proper pronunciation of your last name? Do you like Kernan? Do you like Kernan? How do you like it pronounced?
Anything. I use both. My dad says Kernan, my mom says Kernan. I say both. So really either one works.
That is amazing. You give us a lot of grace. I'm like your dad. I like Kernan. It just rolls off. But we want to honor your mother too.
I actually use both of them all the time.
Yeah, Conan sounds like a smooth.
It's easy for me. Oh, well, of course, there could be any public discussion at this moment on the consideration and approval of the appointment of a new executive director by the name of Dr. Amy Kernan or Kernan, and the offering of that contract, providing she signs it and accepts it and that the background check is passed. I will make that motion. We will have discussion, but I'll pause just to see, and I believe it's just no public comments here, so we're good. I'll make the motion then that we approve the appointment of the new executive director for the next school year. Is there a second prior to? David seconds? And discussion, it could be joyful discussion and elation, and again, until we both ink the deal, I'll just forecast in mind. I feel as lucky in finding Dr. Kernan as I now reflect on how lucky we were to find Dr. Bean. That's what I feel. And I'm glad you get to hear that from me. other comments, questions, thoughts about the appointment before we take a vote on item B?
I'll just make a comment. Well, procedure wise, we should, put a B in front of A because, if we don't agree to appoint her, there's no sense, no need to discuss about compensation, right?
Correct. We, in our Saturday
Right.
special meeting, had the early discussion and chartered this board member
Right.
to begin the negotiations. So
Okay.
you're right. So the negotiations have completed. Yeah, so we could flip flop those, but we're getting them both in on the same meeting.
I saw
Great-
that, it really
great thought.
doesn't matter, yeah, so.
Brett and I labored over the sequence of these things.
Right. I mean, when I saw that, it was, it's just like, you agree to appoint her as a new ED, then we talk about the compensation, some of the details. But the first one was already done, hopefully. And so the second one, I say, because we had this extensive discussion, every board member here sitting around the table was involved in interview Dr. Kernan. And man, if I think we had a unanimous decision, right?
It was unanimous.
Yeah, so so that
It's almost like a revote
Yeah, it's a
again.
revote. Basically, point B, it's a revote. We already agreed. So I would say just let's move forward.
Felipe or Ali, any comments prior to a vote?
Or people think.
Yeah,
You're fun because you're probably the most qualified to find an executive director, having been in education and built your career. Felipe, any comments before vote?
Welcome to the party.
Well, let's do a roll call vote from left to right. Then Felipe,
Yes.
Molly,
Yes.
Douglas, yes, Brett,
Aye.
and David.
Yeah.
Wonderful, and item B carries then too. Welcome, and should you choose to sign the papers, you will be leading this board from the side for the rest of the future. It's funny, sometimes, we're a bit presumptive, but we'll presume that we prevail in this. We sometimes move along with business so fast, and we forget to celebrate some of the great things that happen in this school. And Dr. Bean reminds us that's probably an applause moment. And so I'll just say this, finding you is an applause moment. And likewise, our principal, we applauded you long ago. That's nice. Item C is the board will consider and approve an amendment of the bylaws to add language to Article 7, Section 5, which is head noted director's term. And this would, in quotes, would be what we would add the sentence: the board may extend the term of an existing board member for an additional year by majority vote. That's the motion that we'll have, and I'll invite in a moment. And then we'll have some discussion as to why we might do that. And I'm happy to fill in a little bit of that too. Could I invite a motion first for C? Molly has the motion. Second, I'll second that motion, and then discussion. Part of the discussion was that we intend to add board members. We're in a season where we're surveying, inviting inquiries, and in some ways interviewing. We do not have an official committee. I'm a committee of one at the moment because Dr. Smith was on that committee before and would present. So we will try to have a committee, but all board members are welcome to meet prospective board members. So, but it's the job of the board member committee to go find them from time to time. And we have some good prospects. However, with a new principal, a new executive director, there was some desire to have some continuity with Miller Zhuang, who is a non-parent, potentially carry on, and with his international connections. And it's just hard for the school. He's in China right now, meeting with educators and advocating, I'm sure, for us in all we do. So there was a smaller desire for yours truly to remain on in some capacity. And I'm willing to do that on a limited basis, meaning probably not in the role of chairman. So those are some of the motivations. Anybody want to share anything else related to this topic? Or did I capture the gist?
I think it's good to allow just the opportunity to renew a board member if they'd like to extend for a year. That's my personal comment. As long as the majority agree with it.
Yeah, we all have different energies at different seasons for endeavors like this. And if somebody has that high energy and desire, and the others recognize it, it still rests with the other board members, but, okay.
What was the original language?
There are 4-year terms, and so it just said shall serve for 4 years. So this would be added to that. Still, there's a 4-year term, however, could be extended. Yeah, and again, it's not a board that would be, we wouldn't envision necessarily somebody perpetually serving for their lifetime. I don't think that's pragmatic or practical, but you get a new crop of parents in that serve on the board. You have people from the larger, broader Irvine and Orange County area that might have some interest. You might have some outliers in Riverside County that have some interest in education in this area, but they bring something to the table, just as each of you do. So it's good. Any further discussion prior to roll call vote? Okay, then we'll take a roll call vote starting on Felipe's end. Felipe, to approve the amendment to the bylaws.
Yes.
And Molly?
Yes.
I'm a yes as well. Brett? Aye. Okay, and David? Yeah. You know what? I might recuse myself just because it impacts me partially. So Miller and I will not take that vote. I don't think it affects the outcome. It's just prudent. So, good. C. That brings us to discussion and action item D. The board will consider and approve board member roles for the 2024-25 school year. So the roles, there's generally a chairman that would be charged with leading our public meetings and has a few other duties as well. Sometimes they're a signatory on certain documents. I've had that hat on for a period of time. I'm willing to take that hat off for the next season. And the bylaws are loose enough. We can appoint informally or formally a vice chair. That's a person who would step into that person's seat to lead meetings if the chair was unavailable. Brett has done that in the past marvelously, probably better than this chair, but let's not say that out loud. And so those are really the roles that we would see, and any others that we decided we might want to have. We would probably discuss at this point the idea of the particular role of chair. We could make a motion for a chair, second it, and then discuss it, either approve it or move on and repeat the process to find a chair. I have a motion that the board would allow myself to retire from the position of chair and have Brett Freeman be the chair at this time. Is there anybody who would second that motion?
Are you gonna,
We're going to discuss it.
are you gonna resign from the chair position or?
Yeah, I would step out of that chair position and he'd be reappointed. I'd still be, well, I'm not, as of June 30th, if nothing else changes, I would be, my term would be up on the board, but we have on the agenda the opportunity to, oh, we already said we can extend. So
You will still continue to be a board member instead of
instead of the chair.
instead of the chair, but not wearing the chair, right? Yeah.
Right, so item F, if approved, I would remain on. Yeah, we're not obligated to
Yeah.
vote that way, and you're not compelled to, but we made that an option.
I would support to have a Brad to take, wearing the chair hat going forward at EBU.
Okay, yeah, so David has a second discussion.
Do you want me to
Everybody
say
likes
something?
it.
Are you waiting for me to say something?
No,
The only question I would have is that, Brett, you'd be taking on that role. Is that something you're interested in?
I mean, I care deeply about the school, so I want to serve any way that I can, any way that you all think that I can. I'm happy to do it if that's the calling, I'm happy to do it.
well, the reason I support, I think, there's several reasons. And, number one, there's a continuity issue, right? A kind of a leadership continuity. And, Doug and Brad are involved with the longest on this board. I think, really kind of bring the experience and, not necessarily other experience, but which is also stellar. But I think it's important to have someone who, involved at the board level and at the school level from early on.
I agree, and in this season, both by proximity and maybe availability to our new executive director, our role is to support the executive director as the executive director supports the others in the school. And we certainly gain a little bit of that with Brett in this season too.
Right.
And he can then, of course, at any point, look at any of you who are capable of, administering the agenda and being, the one that leads a meeting.
He's not
Yeah,
looking.
there's no
He's not looking over
wallflowers
here.
in here.
He's not looking over here, is he?
And right now, our bylaws don't specify a vice chair. I think that's something we should strive for. And the idea of a vice chair is during a season, they're ready to step in. They get into some of the conversations that are necessary, so they feel perfectly comfortable in the future season. But we don't forecast a vice chair will automatically become a chair. That's not in our bylaws. It's more informal right now. Maybe it's okay to keep it there now, but if we desire, Brett's gonna do this for 18 months, but at the 6-month mark, we want to appoint a vice chair who's shadowing him. I see that on a number of boards, and I don't think it's a discussion tonight, but it's something to think about. And you feel very comfortable then stepping into that role because you've been invited into other aspects of what it is to be a chair beyond this meeting. So that's the motion that Brett takes the role as chair. Any further discussion? We'll go for a roll call vote, starting on David's end. David? And Brett, you want to vote or recuse yourself? I'm going to vote a yes, a hearty yes. And Molly?
Yes.
And Felipe?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What's nice is you can pick it up from there for item E.
June
Or you
30th.
Or you
June
can-
30th
or-
is
or
the
you
day.
can defer to me.
Almost 8 o'clock. Have an inaugural.
Yeah, I don't want to steal your thunder, Doug.
I'll continue with E.
The dogs shows are not that big. You can fit it in.
E's our next discussion and action item, where the board will consider and approve directors of the Western Mandarin Immersion Charter School. So this is more a corporate piece of it. We are a California corporation. A corporation has to name certain directors. Now our function on the board looks a lot like directors. Technically, we're probably more like trustees or fiduciaries, but they're specific. There needs to be a secretary identified to the state of California. There needs to be a president, which usually is the board sometimes. Sometimes you push the executive director up into a director role, hence the word director. But it's okay if the board holds those two. We can discuss that here, what we want to do for this next season. And then if you want, you can charter me. I can make the update to the statement of information because I have access to it for a corporation. So let me make a motion on it, then we can clarify, take questions, discuss it a little bit if there's a second. And so I'll move the board considers and subsequently approves the board member roles they discuss for the next school year. Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Felipe second. Let's get clarification. I know this is a little bit wonky language for corporate formation and such. Any thoughts or questions again, the role, we definitely have to have a secretary. We usually have a treasurer and usually a president. Sometimes they're called CEO.
Doug, can you repeat the motion? Because it's
You
it's kind of
mentioned,
confusing.
yeah, are
What's the
you
motion?
reading?
Yeah,
Which
and
one
this
you
is D, where the board will consider and approve the board member, oh, I'm sorry, did I read the second
Yeah.
one? Board will consider and approve directors of the Western Mandarin Immersion Charter School and authorize the update to the Secretary of State Statement of Information. Thank you. I read it.
Well, in your motion, you want to actually motion individuals and then second and then discuss. Because you have to name the people for the motion.
Oh, okay.
Otherwise,
yes.
you're just approving.
So yeah, we will then do our little pre-discussion and actually come up with the motions for each person. Thank you for that. So in the discussion, we would need a person identified as a secretary. I want to say, Brett, are you identified on
I'm
there?
currently the secretary, but I'm not sure.
But the statement of information doesn't reflect it. Yeah, so you are in function our secretary.
And I would need to shift that.
Yeah, it would be better as chair to be what they call oftentimes president or in that role. There is a role for treasurer. Ironically, a person can hold two roles. But I don't recommend it, and it's not necessary. So that's what I would do then, is entertain a motion for president, which likely would be Brett. Motion for treasurer, motion for secretary. Treasurer, I'm trying to think at certain moments during the year, if you have to sign things, you may. Secretary for sure signs things throughout the year.
I seem to remember that David was.
David was?
Listed. yeah.
He may be identified
Oh,
currently,
maybe
but I'm gonna
secretary.
update the statement of information. So even if it's a
Yeah.
continuing role, I think we can vote on it today, and that gives me the authority to update the statement of information. President, I think is an easy one. I'll move that the board names for the Western Mandarin Immersion Charter School Brett Freeman as the president and authorizes an update to the Secretary of State statement of information.
I'll second.
And David will second, and we'll go from Felipe's side across. Felipe
Yes.
and Molly.
Yes.
Doug is a yes. Brett, you're probably going to recuse yourself. And David?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we got one in place.
I'm gonna follow, did you say the treasurer on occasion would have to sign documents?
Maybe. I can't remember
I
one.
don't think we've had that issue. here.
Secretary signs most things that come out of this board that go to our authorizer or the state of California or Department of Ed. I don't know, but there is a
The
treasurer
will
role.
have to sign any kind of banking documents, if you change banks, you add certain things with the treasurer. Because the banks will require that.
Okay, yeah, so there could be, I can't recall any specific ones, and
Yeah, I
so
don't think
is
we
it
had
of,
an issue last year. The reason I mentioned that is just because of the convenience that I'm local. And
yes,
it makes it easy for the school's activities to, if somebody was local to sign, but it sounds like more likely secretary position has that, a little bit more of that responsibility.
yeah. Chairman of the board and in this role, and then secretary,
Would be like available for that.
there's high availability for
So-
you.
So I would, I don't know if I can motion myself, but I would volunteer for the secretary position under that guise that.
I think
That
it's
makes, gives me
To
a.
make a motion that Felipe be secretary.
even better. Brett motions, and I'll second that.
I would prefer to be president, but I'll take.
All in due
secretary.
time. Any discussion then regarding Felipe Delgado assuming the role of corporate secretary? I will entertain a vote then, starting with David.
Yeah.
Brett, I'm a yes, and Molly,
Yes.
and we'll allow Felipe to recuse himself and passes as that. And then a treasurer role. Again, I cannot remember a time they've signed, but there will probably be something, just doesn't come up that often in this situation. Any motion?
I motion David be treasurer.
Who?
David, son.
I think been the treasurer.
So
Um,
I should continue.
I'll second that motion. Any discussion, maybe even some from David? You mind being that role? It hasn't seemed to hurt you yet. You were, because you jumped on the finance committee for a while. That's right. That's right.
I haven't seen any check yet.
With Dr. Bean and North Compass, we really didn't need a finance committee to drive it so hard. He got it every week. I do like that. If you're
Yeah.
okay with
Yeah,
that.
I'm okay.
Well, let's do a roll call vote, starting on the left. Felipe
Yes.
and Molly.
Yes.
Doug is a yes, and Brett? Aye. And we'll allow David to recuse himself. Good, we have our positions filled. Thank you, Dr. Bean, for the way to do that. You could have directed that to Brett. Oh, okay, that brings us to F, where the board, and we'll do these individually as well. The board will consider the approval of extension of tenure for board members. And again, it would be according to the bylaws, which would be only a 1-year extension for myself and Miller. Is there a motion regarding Miller? And if a second, we'll do some discussion again.
I'll just make a comment. I got a, is it okay?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. I had a, 2 weeks ago, or less than 2 weeks ago, I was in Vancouver. I met him, I said, what's your plan? He said, he said he would like to stay on. I said, all right, tell me why. He said, because we like the school, he was involved from the beginning. He talked about the history, things like that. I said, but you're gonna have to make some time to come down here more often. Yeah, to the extent I really like the guy and he loves the school, he's very enthusiastic about everything. But, I asked him, I said, at least every quarter he should have come down, okay, to be here. And that's a personal request. And I said, to help, because currently he travels on his own Nicholas dimes. He buys a plane ticket himself. And come here, sometimes stay at a friend's house. And a friend has to go to the airport and pick him up and drop him off. I said, perhaps in the future, the board can approve a budget to help a little bit, but not to pay you 12 times a year.
Right.
Yeah. Something reasonable. I think that might help.
I think the sentiment's very good. We might look for a little direction on the how to do it,
Yeah.
but I love the idea of supplementing to get, he has a
Yeah.
lot of great relationships with families.
Yeah.
And was very instrumental on the way.
Exactly.
That's good.
I mean, a person's willing to make a personal investment to serve, to come here. If you come here, even on a quarterly basis on his own, then
Yeah.
it adds up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll find the money for one trip.
Right.
You personally, so I think that we keep that in our heart and our mind to make sure that we get his influence personally, not just virtually and more often.
Yeah.
That's great thoughts. I'll make a motion that Miller Zhong's tenure is extended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, David seconds. More discussion on that. For those that haven't met Miller, he is unique and his story, honestly, I'm not comparing stories, but it inspires me as much as our executive director sitting over here, Dr. Beans. It's truly heroic and it's fascinating. And if you ever get a chance to hear his story, you'll say, wow. So other discussion on Miller?
My only, comment to Miller, because I think he's very valuable. We just don't see him online. We just don't see him. In the beginning, he was there when he'll come down in the summer, occasionally he'll come down. He wants to be part of the retreats, the teacher retreats. He wants to be, when he's here in town, he's here at the school. And he's in the classroom and he's engaging with parents and staff, and it's great. But he's traveling and we've fallen really low on his list of priorities. And I just hope that if he wants to be on another year, I'm happy to support that he actually make the effort so we can all see that he really wants to be here.
Go ahead.
I, I think so too, and especially we already have the schedule for meetings, so you can put it
Mhm.
into the calendar.
Yeah.
See travel.
That's good. And you know, it's the responsibility of the board members collectively to keep that accountability because the bylaws specify number of meetings that must be attended. So let's make that commitment too. And
So I got two things. One, did he ask to be extended? Did he actually ask to be extended? Because I don't recall hearing that. And as a matter of fact, the last time when I spoke to him about his temperature, he asked me, what do you think? Do you think I should stay? And I kind of thought, hey man, that's your call. That's not me. You know, it's not on me. You know, you should be the one making that decision if you're, you know, and I'm gonna put this rough. I'm committed to being here, right? You know, I don't have to ask anybody, right? I don't have to, what do you think? I know where I want to be, you know, and you see me here probably more than anybody alive, right? So, you know, I question that. You know, you're right. All of a sudden, we're lower on the priority list. So, but I'm really challenged with this
you've
one.
got two things. Hold a second. When you were with Miller, did you get the sense, what sense did you get of his desire to participate?
He would like to
He
stay.
wants to.
Yeah, he wants to stay
Because I wasn't directly asked, but
because you know me, I'm a very direct guy.
Yeah.
I said, hey, you know, do you want to stay as a board? And a lot of times you are not available. And okay, and you know, I like Miller. Miller Brown. He's a good guy, very good guy. I would
Was he-
like to see him to get more involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna play the bad guy here. So he's not here today, right? Was he here on Saturday?
no.
Okay, so that's two meetings. But prior to that was here. There was another meeting. What was the meeting prior to that? Was he here? You know, so there's three on less than 2 months, right? You know, he's got to make a commitment to, and you're right. I don't need to see him here, but he needs to be part of the team. He needs to be at least be online and be.
That's why I said you're gonna make some effort to come down here at least on a quarterly basis. So the
Mhm.
school see you, the board will see you in person. I said, nothing can replace face-to-face meeting. Right?
And the dates are here.
Yeah.
The dates are here. Now I know we have specials.
And yeah, at that time, you know, we discussed about cost, traveling cost. I said that, well, you could, you know, one of the, if cost is a significant hurdle, then we can, at board level should discuss that.
Right. Well, and individually, we can
Yeah.
make some commitments to him as a friend. These are important things, and you know, it's important for others to hear too. Whatever privilege you might feel in serving on a board, and it is a privilege, it is a commitment.
Yeah.
It's not, we're just looking for passersby. You know, we're looking for people with insight, can add value from their varying perspectives, and he does add a lot of value with his connections, his insight, his passion for education. But I think we understand that, you know, we've expressed, you know, what our expectation is.
You know, I'm sorry, but I gotta be the bad guy here. So this item for discussion, this motion is listed for today to be at this meeting. At the very least, I would expect him to be here online to discuss this particular topic. You know, so that's telling to me. I gotta bring it up.
No, I appreciate it. And as some may notice, this board on many issues is united, unanimous. On others, we're independent thinking, but we're supportive of each other. But we're going to speak our mind, and we may not always vote alike. And not everything that ends up on here will pass. It's just the nature of things we have to discuss. And so there is the motion. Was it seconded?
It was.
So
You raised the motion, Doug, and then David second.
Okay, yeah, so we will take a vote on it and, again, as always, vote your conscience and your mind, starting on the left for, Miller's extension, Felipe.
I vote yes.
Molly?
Yes.
Yes, from Doug as well, Brett?
Aye.
And David?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that was really great. We want you, Miller. However, we want you.
Without.
That's good.
Well, with the summer.
The other, I'll allow anyone else, should they
Requirements.
desire to motion on the second.
That's you, right?
Doug, on motion.
Okay. Okay. Discussion.
Yeah, it was discussion, but can it be about the previous topic?
Oh, yes.
I forgot to add something in there.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
Can I add something in there?
we're pretty free.
You know, I think, and this is for the record, and this is for Miller, I think that if you can't make that commitment, then you need to resign. You need to think about it in your heart and decide, we still want you, it's obvious. We're gonna work with him enough, but you need to make that decision.
Well, we just tell him,
He needs to decide.
Sorry to jump in.
Go ahead.
But
Well,
yeah,
that's-
but I would say just to tell, we can all, it's good friend, right? We can all tell him, person, hey, the board, I think that you can still contribute,
That's right.
yeah,
I-
to the
I-
board and to the school. Hey, buddy, just, show up more often.
Put up or shut up.
Yeah.
Put up,
And, the other concerns we can talk about. That's it.
Yeah, actually talking to, our new executive director about my role and that I'd actually, recognized the term coming to an end, was content with that. But there's something, whether on the board or not on the board, I still feel is unfinished from me. And that's some of the fundraising pieces that I want to do for local funds. And there's some particular people I think that would have an equal passion for our school that would joyfully contribute to the development of the school. And so I really want next season to focus on that and just use some personal connections to bring others on tours here to see the great things going on. So I feel there's a place and a focus for me if extended. So. Any other discussion?
Hey, Doug, we'd like to see you get involved still.
I appreciate it. It's a
Even
joy.
if you're not.
It's not a burden, it's a joy.
That's
for sure.
All service.
It's so enjoyable to
Yeah.
work with you
Right.
and your heart for the school. You're just a tremendous person and a beacon on this board. So I really appreciate your willingness and your wife's willingness, to support you here. So any way that you can possibly serve, I
Yeah,
one
you're
hundred
gonna,
percent behind it.
yeah, you're gonna have to tell your wife, we appreciated that, her support.
She was nice. She texted me, they're at a family dinner, and she goes, I'll order food for you and bring it home if you like. And I'm like, I'm okay, I'm all right, I'm in good standing. You're always gonna get to laugh with me or at me. Well, then, having the motion in second, we'll call for a vote going right to
Wait.
left. David?
I got
Oh, go
a
ahead,
couple-
one more. Yeah,
One more
please.
thing. So, for myself personally, I think sometimes you come up with some pretty good ideas. But
Practical
also, I
ability.
just wanted to tell you something that just came to mind that I was thinking about. We had a very rough year, the first year. And there was a lot of board meetings that were, they're incredible and a lot of issues going on there. But when we started watching, me and my wife, and then we got involved and all that. One of the things she told me at the end of the first year was she said, that Houston guy, I wish he was my boss. I wish I
That's
could.
pretty
work for that
kind.
guy. He is so.
Are you
he's
hiring?
so like that. Because I wish
Very
I
nice.
could work for this guy. And so I just thought I'd pass it
Thank you.
along that she
Yeah.
mentioned. So with that. you can
That
take
was
it away.
sweet. David, starting on your end,
Yeah.
Brett? I'm recused, Molly
Yes.
and Felipe.
Yes.
Thank you for all of that. Wow, that's great. That gets us through all of our discussion and action items. closing items, simply this, any board comments for one another or existing or soon to be, hopefully, knock on wood,
Yeah.
a new executive director or our principal could address
Yeah,
any of them. David?
I want to make some comments, and I think that today is a kind of monumental, because it's really kind of a transition. And we have a new leadership team. And for one, and you know, today is a moment we basically have to pay, attributed to Dr. Bean for his service. This would be the last, official board meeting with Dr. Bean sitting here. And, I personally, I want to express gratitude for Dr. Bean's service and leadership. And the contribution, great contributions made to the school. And as a board member, as a personal friend, I really feel it's a privilege having worked with you in the past. All right, and let's give a round of applause. And secondly, today we have also lucky to have Dr. Kanan, and we have the new leadership in place. I feel excited, and with Doug Houston served on the board as a chairman in the past. I mean, I got to say, and you have provided guidance, leadership to the board, to the school in the past years. It's remarkable and it's admirable. And, sometimes I think, it's inspiring because especially during the first year, it's really tough. At that time, initially, I was not a board member, I was just a parent. Observing what can I say? I'm glad that this board has Don Houston sitting there, and provide a stability. It's just it's a really make a lot of things happen. Okay, and not everyone can do that. All right, and I also wanted to express our thanks to you for having served as the board chairman.
Thank you. You all did that. You all did that on Saturday very nicely, right? Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, David. Same way. No particular order, but Brett, you want to share it all?
Yeah, first, I just want to thank all the candidates that applied for the executive director position. We appreciate your time, sharing with us your thoughts, and we're grateful for your interest and participation. We want to express a very hopeful welcome to Dr. Hernan. Hopefully she accepts and is willing to come and serve here. We're grateful to her. Grant, we're very excited you're here. Thank you for being here. Dr. Bean, more thanks coming your way. We're grateful to you.
Thank you.
And I know that you like to leave organizations well.
Yeah.
Right, and we're absolutely doing that here. So thank you to this board. Doug, thank you for your chairmanship again. Grateful to all of you. Thank you.
My comments in closing, first to parents who day after day entrust us with the care of your kids and the education with your partnership. What a privilege to be a small part behind the scenes of what happens in this environment. It's truly special. These are lifelong memories these kids are making. Their achievement is outstanding, but they're doing it with joy. And that's a special environment. And of course, that's a credit then to parental involvement. Every teacher, our teachers, the last 2 years, I can only say they gelled together as a cohesive team, creating a beautiful community. And that's attributable, of course, to everybody who participates on the staff, whether it's after school programming or it's the front office or it's SciSci making those calls to make sure nobody's absent. And then all envisioned and fostered by, of course, our executive director, who's moving on to some wonderful new challenges. And then I'll just say again, welcome to the leaders that we now have. We're here to support you in any way we can. We trust you, and we will just fan the flame to where you want to take this place. We're grateful for you.
I just realized that I walked through the entire school year at IIA. And
First year retired, right?
yes, and I really felt this is a family, and I see myself as a student coming on board because there's so much to learn. I mean, I just learned something today. So first, I want to thank Dr. Bean. It just learned so much from you, your love for the parents, for the community, for the kids. And I'm just so proud. I mean, I've been telling people, our uh, executive director is going to be a student. It's like family. We have someone become. So we're so proud of you and continue to just hopefully I'll pray for you. And think about we have new leadership coming in. I just want to say welcome, and I can't wait for a new year working with all of you. And I think today you also get to see the board. This is the family I've been with for a whole year. We all have different personality, different experiences, but I love it that I'm still not sure whether I should say they should, share certain things, but they're just openly, they're just accept. And so I'm learning a lot. So I hope you will enjoy the board that we work together. And I heard about you before I came to IIA.
Oh.
Yeah, so just so grateful at and your leadership and so on. And I'm so glad that you're gonna stay for that meeting.
My privilege.
So yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay, my turn.
Yes.
You always end with me.
Well, anybody can chime in afterwards too.
Yeah, okay, well, I get
You're
to
sitting in the same order you always said.
Aren't you? Next time you want to sit in here.
But yeah, there's been a lot of success to the school, and I think if Dr. Bean would agree with me that most of that success that he's had, it's mostly me. It was
Yeah.
mostly me. It was mostly me. But actually, two things I would say. I know it's getting late, everybody wants to go home, but I'm gonna keep it short. Boy, I had no idea what I was getting into when I got involved here, not just being on the board, but the school and bringing my kid here, getting involved, that whole ride from the whole thing. Boy, it's been an incredible journey for me. And somewhere along the line, I committed to the success of the school. I don't know where it happened. I don't know what happened, but I really blame my wife because she's the one who made me bring the kids here. Something that I forgot to mention that happened to me, and this is for you too. This is specifically for you too. When I was preparing for the gala, one of the things I had to do was go through all the pictures that were taken from the parents and people who submitted pictures so that I could portray them during the gala and stuff like that. And something that came to mind, some advice that I'm going to give you too. It's not going to be a bed of roses, all right? There's going to be some rough times, all right? But one thing I noticed is that in those pictures, there's so many happy times, so many joyful moments, so many successes that you're just not going to be able to grasp them all. So keep that in the back of your mind, how much beauty is actually happening at the school every day. Keep that it overcomes any of the rough parts that you're going to have to go through. Trust me. All right. And with that,
Beautiful. Do you have a postscript? I just saw you taking notes. I didn't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just taking minutes.
Yeah.
Novel is capturing every word that everybody said.
There you go.
You think you can fill in that role? I never thought you would be a good student.
Well, then I'm happy to motion perhaps for the last time for an adjournment. Can I have a second for adjournment?
I second.
Thank you, Felipe, and I'll begin the adjournment vote with you.
Oh, I adjourn.
Yes, I imagine since you seconded, you vote for it. Molly?
Yes.
Yes for Doug and Brett?
Aye.
And David?
Yeah.
And we're officially adjourned and I'll thank everybody for participating, especially our oversight board and Maureen Cox and the entire staff at OC Board of Education. Thank you all. Thank you.
Hey.
We got some strength. We got some big